Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Manny Talks Shooting is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns. Did you know that Phil the Groundhog isn't the only thing Puxatawny, Pennsylvania is famous for? That's right, D2 Custom Guns, the home of Dan Heizenreiter and one of the best, fabulous 2011 builders in the country. So make sure you guys go check him out, D2 Custom, anywhere you can see him on the social media, Facebook, Instagram, go check him out. If you see myself, Patches Reader, anyone with the D2 Custom Guns, make sure you go check him out, and you will thank me later. Now, let's get on to the show. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast on the internet in my side room. The view might be a little different. I've been messing around with my desk, my camera, my microphone, my stuff. My computer is now not on the floor. It is now hanging off of the bottom of my desk. I feel very proud and super pro-ho handyman. I'm excited. No, but this show is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns. Go call Dan Heizenreiter. Go check him out, d2customguns.com. Go order yourself an open gun, a limited optics gun. You know you want it. You know you want to. But without further ado, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk to a guy that this is the second time we're talking because
we already did it.
I fucked up and I lost the file. So we're
the
sitting
same
down
week. Me and Jeff did the exact same thing
in the same week. It's horrible.
Well,
but
we didn't do the same
podcasting.
thing. Our recorder died, and we lost 90 minutes of show.
That's the worst part about being podcasting via the internet. It will fuck you at some point.
Sooner or later. Yep.
It will. But everyone, introduce once again, but really the first time you're listening to it, Mr. Andy Erickson of Area 3, your Area 3 director.
Yeah. Oh, easy. Canned applause. Yay.
Yep. See, someone's going to have to.
Hey, I've got buttons too. I'm going to give you some buttered sausage.
Let's talk about buttered sausage.
I think I have my dumb, like the canned, like the, where is it? Oh, I can't switch. How do you switch? Yeah, there's supposed to be a way I'm supposed to go back because like the pre-installed buttons that are on there. I don't know how to do that. Okay, I won't. Never mind.
No, it's okay. You know why? Because mine's better. But anywho, all right.
Beer!
Yay, beer! Wait, is that a? Oh God, is that a clip from Blue Mountain State?
No, it's the Red Stripe commercial from back in the day.
Oh, okay. It sounded like one of the guys from Blue Mountain State. Have you ever seen that Netflix show?
I'm aware of it. I've never seen it. No.
It was on Spike. Remember when Spike was a thing?
Oh,
Spike?
yeah.
It's on Netflix. Go watch it if you still have Netflix. I'm not going to endorse that, but it's a great show if you just want to sit there on your couch and do nothing. So, but so some people may know you, Andy. Some people probably don't because they live under a rock and they just kind of listen to these for casual enjoyment. But who is Andy and how did he get into shooting?
Andy is a dad, husband. Almost entirely lifelong South Dakotan, born and raised right near Sioux Falls in a small town called Beersford. I got into shooting because my dad was into shooting, and he was really big into big game hunting, primarily deer and elk, and then also pheasant hunting, South Dakota, the pheasant hunting capital of the world. And he was big into trap shooting, so the first thing I ever shot after the BB gun and the 22 was a shotgun and lots of it. And did the deer hunting thing as well as a kid. Wasn't really a big passion, but then I fell out of it. It was just something I did with my dad. It wasn't a thing I loved doing. So the last time I did any hunting or shooting as a kid was when I was 16 in high school. And then I think I maybe touched a gun once or twice until my mid 30s. And was at Thanksgiving at their house, and he was taking the grandkids out to go shoot 22s, and I went with, and I shot his Glock 17, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. I like this. And I'd never really shot a pistol before. So outside of like my brother was big into shooting. I wasn't. I remember he had a single action 22 revolver. That was and a Beretta 96 when we were briefly roommates in college. And so that was like the two occasions I'd ever shot a pistol. But then I shot that Glock of my dad's, and it was pretty much a new obsession was born. And about a year later, I bought that pistol from him. A year later, I bought my first AR, and wanted to do like a practical application of all this rifle shooting I'd been doing. So I'm like, hey, dad, brother, let's get deer tags. So we got deer tags and we went hunting, and I'm like, oh, I like this. This was fun. And so then that kind of became the other thing that I really enjoyed doing, but it's only a small part of the year. And then looking for another way of doing it, I started shooting. A gun club near me had CMP matches, and you could, at the time, for $35, they'd give you 55 rounds of 30-06 and an M1 Garand, and you could shoot the service rifle match. It was so fun. So there was that. I bought my own rifle for that sport, an M1A, which I regret trading that rifle in. I traded it for my Tac Sport Orange that I currently have, that I used to think was the dumbest decision I ever made, and now, after converting it to 9 and getting an optic cut, it was a really good decision. So I'm back to actually shooting that gun a lot. But so it just sort of grew from there and there and there. And then I took a concealed carry class in 2015 that was the most absolutely worthless dog shit thing you could ever imagine. I sat there going, I can do this better than you, and no one will fall asleep. And I'm looking around, adding up the money. I'm like, hey, this will be a nice little side gig. So started doing that, and realized along with that, like the first practical shooting sport I really did was 3-gun, because I saw 3-Gun Nation back in the day, and I'm like, that's awesome. I want to do that. And shot a couple 3-gun matches, realized I really suck at shooting a pistol. And I was starting to teach classes where I needed to teach people about shooting a pistol. So I need to get better at shooting pistol. So I'm going to shoot more pistol. And then I started slowly learning and got kind of okay at it, but started shooting more USPSA, and then realized, oh, this is way easier to go to a match with one gun in a much smaller bag. And, a third of the ammo, and it's just as fun. So, and it doesn't take as long either. That's the other benefit. But that's basically, and then the obsession snowballed from there pretty much.
Yeah, it definitely sounded like you have a very addictive personality, and it's okay because it's at least it's a positive outlook and a positive outlet.
Well, like a friend of mine, his name is Nick, and he switches passions frequently. Mine lasts like 20 years. So was like really, really, really into sports, like playing ball sports. Even into my mid-30s was playing, like I played amateur baseball in my 20s, and then that wasn't really an option for me anymore because no one wanted a fat first baseman who only hit for average and not power. So no one would take me on their team. But then I was playing slow pitch softball, and so I did that for a long time, and that was and played a lot of golf. That was a passion as well. And then shooting kind of overtook all of those. But my friend Nick, he switches like every other year. But when he does it, like his uncle said, he goes balls deep. He's balls deep, Nick. I'm going to buy a bass boat because I'm into fishing. And for one summer, he does nothing but fish, and he's on that bass boat every free minute he gets. And then another year, actually back when he was an apprentice electrician, like power line guy, skydiving, that's fun. They just went skydiving. I'm going to get every license I can possibly get. Yeah, your camera is freaking out, not wanting to focus.
Yeah. Just keep talking, Andy.
You trying to fix it. It's freaking me out. You look like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, like the. Anyway, especially with the glasses. But yeah, so I mean, he went from skydiving. He sold his bass boat, and then he got binocular nods and shot our night match with those, and which is crazy to think that used bass boat is the same amount of money as a pair of nods. Like Jesus.
But either the nods keep good value or the bass boat didn't.
Well, he just was done with it. It sat in his garage for 2 years. He's like he rents his hobbies. He does not invest in them. He rents them. And it's a really smart way of thinking about your hobbies. Like, I'm just renting this, and eventually it will be something I sell to do the next thing, And I don't do that. I just hoard, and I actually, when I bought my Shadow 2, I actually traded in the first gun in a long time. It was a bolt gun that I hadn't shot in forever, and I had trouble getting it to shoot anyway, so I just couldn't get it to group, so I just said the hell with it, and the value of it actually had gone up since I bought it. So
Well, there you go.
thank you, inflation.
Yay, inflation, supply and demand. But yeah. So you kind of a long-winded way around it is through your dad, you were able to find the love of shooting with find that, and now you've been stuck ever since shooting practical shooting and teaching. I like how you say that you could teach it better where people wouldn't fall asleep. Because most like license to carry classes are terrible, and they're like 8 hours, and they're absolutely ridiculously long. And they're like, "We'll be here at 7 o'clock. There'll be donuts and coffee, but the donuts and coffee will fill you up and make you want to be asleep." So
You'll have a sugar crash. No, my permit class is depending on the group, because some groups just ask more questions than others, so it takes longer. Occasionally, I will tangent and talk more than I normally would, but if it's a reasonably efficient class where I'm covering all the material that's required by law, and also giving the information I think is important for new concealed carriers to know. The classroom portion is about 4 to 5 hours, and then the range is just however long it takes based on the number of people there are. So, it's, I mean, usually it can be as short as 5 hours total. It can be as long as 7 hours, just depends on the group. But I know what you mean, because a lot of concealed carry instructors, first, I have sort of an advantage with my other professional background of doing morning radio and essentially professional speaking to an audience. And not only that, but doing it in very small, digestible bites that keep attention. And so that's the way I try to keep people's attention. I mean, even just being able to speak well, have inflection, and your voice goes up and down, not just saying, okay, so for double action, the trigger goes all the way back and it cocks the hammer and it releases it. Like, I'm dead. I want to leave. This is awful. And that's a class I sat through. And yeah, it is what it is. And those guys, myself included, like, I will joke to my class, like I'll say, "Why are you here today?" And most people will say, "Oh, I'm here because I want to learn more about the law." And no, you're not. You're here because I'm the gatekeeper to your permit. So you can carry in Minnesota because they require all the stuff. So that's why you're here.
right. Yeah. And I can't remember how many times I've wanted to pull my head out going to those classes. Luckily, I only had to go to one. So yay me.
Yeah. Every 5 years, you got to take a class here if you want to keep that permit, though. So they're going to sit through it again.
Yeah. I want to say in Michigan, you have to just have like 6 hours of range time. You can take the refresher course if you want to pay them $80.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you've shot 6 hours on the range in like a year, in like the last year or so, it's like
6 hours. Like would matches count for that?
I mean, that's what I would consider. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be like, yeah, I'm way more proficient than 99% of the average gun owner here, and I just made A class. So
yeah.
I mean, like, anyway, B class shooters are like decent. B class shooters are gods to the normal people of the world.
Are. They really, I mean, even like a high C class is way better than the average pistol shooter in the world.
Because
Like,
they finally figured out how to shoot the game instead of like, oh man, I missed. But they're still gods.
And whenever, the other thing that's funny is, I think one of the more interesting things about, like, if somebody comes to a USPSA match for the first time, I mean, anytime you go to something new and you see people who are better at it than you, it's always intimidating. Like the first time you go to a gym or, anything, there's that level of intimidation. But then to me, there's really two personalities that walk away from that or their approach to it. One is the one who doesn't care how dumb they look and they think it's awesome and I want to do it. And that's me. If I want to do something, I don't care how dumb I look learning it and screwing it up and trying to figure it out. I'll just do it. I'm not embarrassed whatsoever. And then there's the person who is, and it's a spectrum of this, everywhere from just like, I'm a little embarrassed and I get nervous and I don't like that, to my ego is crushed and I can't allow that. So I'm a professional police officer and I just got my ass handed to me by a 14-year-old. So that hurt me and I'm not going back. And, like, I wish everybody would just go back. because then we'd have a lot more than 39,000 members or whatever we're at right now.
Well, even if just everybody showed up and shot, it would be nice because then clubs like ours would have more than 35 to 45 people shooting their club matches.
I like a 35, 40 person club match, though. I don't like more than that's not better. Like, I find it impressive. It's cool that clubs have that. I don't like it's not wrong, but like in terms of the match experience, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 is the sweet spot. You know, where the club actually can make money. Yeah. I mean, you can have, I mean, we would probably have like a bunch of 12s and a couple of 13s. That's one thing. I think squad size is like, I think people get really wrapped around the axle about 12. You go more than 13 and it's going to take all day. Look, I've shot the Iowa section match a bunch of times, and I think their squads are like 16 or 17. I mean, they're big squads, but you're on this one bay with 2 stages for a while. So you have that time built in, but there's so many other things you can do to make the match efficient that the squad size, if it's all the same, it's all the same. You know, I think up to 15 is completely reasonable. It's not a big deal. Even at a nationals, if they went from 12 to 14 or 15, I mean, some people would be bitching like, oh my God, it's taking so much longer. Think about how much longer those other 3 shooters actually take.
Right. Yeah, I guess at that point, if it's
like
nationals,
you're talking like another 9-10 minutes.
Right. But if you think about that, like that 9-10 minutes over the whole match, like especially in Talladega where you can't start until 9 and it gets dark, like open nationals in Talladega in October, what time it actually starts getting dark, that's where the 15-man squads could be a problem. But if you go to some place that starts before fucking 9 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
it wouldn't be a fucking problem.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm like most of the matches I'm thinking of are in, you know, the summer months where that sundown is not really a big issue.
Yeah, it's like 9 o'clock.
CO Nats was at the longest days of the year in June. So, but I like if all of your, and one thing like with the Great Plains section that I've been the match director for the last 4 years now, our squads were 12 because I just decided 12. You know, that's what it was at Nationals in 2021 when I went there a couple months before my first major match. So yeah, let's do 12. And 12 is a great number as long as they're all full. But you can still get match flow problems when you have the no-shows. And every year we've had no-shows. We've had some squads that would have 8, some with 11, some with 10, you know, and everywhere in between. So it just because you're at Nationals, there's not nearly as many no-shows. But like at our match, there's always like 8 to 12 no-shows at least. And if 3 or 4 of them are on one squad, then it kind of screws stuff up because you can't just move people around to fill it in. So
yeah, no shows are a problem. And then you've got the people like they come up to the match director or the stats guy. I know my squad's full, but can so and so shoot with me? The answer is no. Unless you throw me $100.
I usually just say yes as long as it's one more person, because that means that stage is each one of those stages is going to take an extra 4 minutes. You know, that's it. Or each like 4 minutes over the course of the day. Well, 4 minutes over 10 stages is 40 minutes. Yes, it is. But there are other squads that are moving slower because they had wanted to have a target pulled. This stage had a activator go down. Like, if you want to look at it as it's only going to be a delay. Okay, it's also another resetter. So it can also help speed up the squad too.
Hopefully that person's a resetter.
I'm not a big subscriber to Ben Berry's like staff reset is the greatest thing ever. And I've talked, we made him say staff reset is fucking stupid when he was on our show. As a bit, it was just funny. And
it was funny because he dies. Him and Area 6 will die on that hill.
Oh yeah. And so anyway, but I think staff reset to a point is required. I've been to matches where there would be this one target that's way out all by itself at 35 yards, and an RO has to go out and score it. Mm-hmm. And the RO went out there, and they holler back, Alpha Charlie! And then they sat there waiting for someone to come paste it.
Yeah,
And
I don't believe
I
it.
got
I don't describe
angry.
that.
I got so angry. There's there's some clubs and matches where the culture is ROs do not reset because I'm an RO. I don't reset. No, when I'm running a timer, even at a major, I got pasters in my hand. If there's a target I can paste because someone missed it or I'm right next to it and no one's there, I'm just going to paste it because once I'm done calling out scores, I'm done calling out scores. I'm just clearing the range. That's it. I'm making sure it's clear. There's no reason I can't throw some pasters on here and there. And guess what? That extra 25 seconds I did over the course of 12 shooters and 10 stages, how much time is that saving? So you can add time with shooters and you can reduce it by ROs not being lazy. And I'm not saying ROs who don't do that are lazy. I'm just saying if you do a little more, things move smoother.
Oh, it does. And that's my one thing is like I've always learned, I always keep my timer in my offhand. I never have the timer in my strong hand.
Unless I'm running a lefty.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, for you, you're strong hand. You're left-handed, aren't you?
No, I'm actually right-handed.
But you shoot left-handed?
Everything I do except shooting, and that is from my dad because he was really big into trap shooting. And as a trap shooter, your life is much easier if you shoot with your dominant eye hand, and because then you're looking down the rib with your dominant eye. Mm-hmm. And same with archery. Like you go to a bow shop and they're like, "Okay, what's your dominant eye?" It was the first thing they asked me when I went and was thinking about getting a bow, but I didn't because I didn't need another obsession.
So it's funny you mentioned that. So when I shoot, I'm right eye dominant. When I used to play baseball, I could switch sides of the plate.
Oh yeah,
it pissed people off because I'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna," and sometimes I preferred batting left-handed.
Sure,
because then I felt like I had more time to see the ball.
Oh, because your right eye was closer and not looking across the bridge of your nose or anything like that. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I played baseball a long time.
My dad, he's left-handed naturally, so him teaching me, it was just kind of ingrained, and I'm like, oh, this is beneficial to actually do this.
Oh, I taught my daughter when she was playing softball. Like none of my kids ended up playing baseball really or softball, but my daughter did play softball for a number of years. Like from the time I put a bat in any of their hands, it was left-handed. Because like life as a ball player is just easier left-handed because there's way more right-handed pitchers, which is a bigger deal in baseball than softball. But when it comes to shooting a gun, it's less friendly. Although I'm a firm believer. I say this all the time, and it drives some people absolutely crazy. Right-handed bolt-action rifles are actually left-handed rifles. They just don't know it.
Because you can always keep your hand on the action, on the trigger.
Yeah, because I'm not a weenie. I can still hold it up, and I'm going to go like this. Easy peasy. Like, I don't want a left-handed rifle, ever. An M1 Garand or an M14, the operating rod is on that side. Like... It's just right there. I go like this. I don't have to reach over, do some theatrics, and get my hand back on the trigger. It's just, it never leaves. As soon as it's gone, bang. I love it. Mm-hmm. But it sucks for pistols.
Yeah. Well, especially finding gear. Like the holsters has got to be a pain.
Yeah. Anybody need a left-handed holster? I've got a few I don't use. Anybody need a Glock 34 or 35 for a SJC frame weight lefty? If anybody needs one, give me a holler. I got one. I don't use it. I don't need it.
The funny part is people probably don't even know or remember who SJC is anyway.
Are they still around?
Yes, I think so. I don't know. I mean, my buddy and I were talking about them the other day with their equipment, but...
SJCguns.com. Yep, they're still there. Yeah, if you want an open Glock, that's one of the places to go to.
That or Carver Custom.
Or Carver Custom, yeah, that's the other one. I mean, when I was shooting limited, the frame weight, it did make a huge difference. Shooting 40, like, huge difference. But it was only 6 ounces of steel. So it made a big difference, but it wasn't everything.
If you think about it, well, so here's a cool fact. My company actually has helped engineer SIG's TXG grips. So,
oh, yeah, that's right. I remember the first time I was all like, oh, you make the pellets that people make plastic shit out of.
Yes, this is correct. Now, only if Glock was able to do that and actually have like heftier frames, it'd still be a 2x4, but it'd be a heavy 2x4.
They do make heftier frames. They're called the Glock 20 and the Glock 21. The large frames.
Yeah, but they're not. I mean, okay. I mean, other than
They're not
a little
heavy,
bit,
though.
Yeah, it's
No.
not like you're taking a Sig Legion and putting it on a Glock. It would be kind of
No.
cool. It would be kind of cool though.
I mean, it's hefty. It's just not heavy. I guess I was thinking about the bulk of it, but no,
Hefty.
the I think isn't there a couple of companies that have made some like steel frame Glocks, like
Maybe
or steel
one.
frames for Glocks, but they never really caught on.
No, because they're super bougie and boutique. The people
Expensive.
like
they're like $1,000. Like I'm not.
well, and
Why would I do
competitors
that when I
don't.
could?
I don't find competitors to buy those. It's like those people who take
No.
crotch shot gun picks in their car. I think you and Jeff talk about like this every episode. People who shoot themselves in their car.
Epidemic. It's an epidemic. Lately, it's been people shooting themselves in cars, which they don't say this in the story, but we're pretty much convinced it's people taking their little, oh, look at my EDC. Oh, shit, I ventilated my leg.
You know what I say to this? Darwinism.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you're dry firing in your car, that's a different story. Like, if anytime, now I don't normally do this, but if I buy a gun, I always end up dry firing it on the way home every time. It never fails. When I bought my Glock 20, I like immediately got it out and I'm like, God damn, this thing's beefy. God, that trigger's really heavy. But no, it was, it's a thing I'll do, but it's an unloaded gun. So,
yes.
What's more unsafe? Dry firing while driving or texting while driving?
Ooh, yeah, it's definitely texting.
100%.
Which is another stupid thing is like so many states and like towns have passed the hands-free driving thing.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a phone
typing on their computer while they're driving down the road.
Give me a phone slapped to my ear between my shoulder as I drive, compared to like, oh, let me play with a tablet on my fucking dashboard.
Yeah. I actually have just because I do a lot of driving in my job now, I actually finally got because I was just using my earbuds as a headset, but in a noisy truck or loader or something, like the person I'm talking to can't hear shit. So I got like a trucker headset, Bluetooth, the one headphone and the microphone, and thing sounds amazing. It looks dumb as hell. Like it looks ridiculous. And anytime someone sees me wearing it, they're like, what are you, a trucker now? Well, I got a Class A. Shut up. But no, but it works good. I'm in my late 40s and I buy things because they're practical, not because they're cute.
Well, duh. I mean, do you have an air ride seat so you just bounce?
Well, yeah, but it just depends on which vehicle I'm in, the quality of it, because some of them, if they're kind of jacked up, then it just turns into more of an ejection seat than an air ride seat. So it's like less comfortable. I'd rather just feel all the bumps than get shot into the ceiling. But
yeah, what has it been now? Oh, shit. About 10 years ago, I had a friend who was a tow truck driver, and he'd be like, come on, we're going on a call. I'm like, oh, God. So then you'd get in the tow truck and be the flatbed with the air ride seats, and you're just like, this is weird.
Yeah. Whenever someone says tow truck, I still think of like the old school tow truck. It was just like, an F-350 with like the flatbed or maybe a bigger pickup. And it's just got like the hook and, winch sort of thing that they would just pick it up with. Like, I still think of that as a tow truck. And like no tow trucks are like that anymore, except like the ones for semis. But even then they still have a flatbed. But
yeah,
like it's pretty different now. That's why you came to Manny Talks Shooting, folks, is to hear about tow trucks and truck driving.
I mean, this is really, the shooting's the thing that draws people in. Just the conversation is what makes them stay.
Hey, the Hit Factor podcast did an hour about the carnivore diet the other day.
This is true, and also the fact they're quitting essentially.
Well, they're not quitting, but they're sort of like.
It's the nice way of saying that Jeff and Jeremy are like, I'm done with this.
I'm done with doing this on a regular basis, and we'll keep it going, but with the minimum effort required. But,
yeah, it's okay. I want back into their Discord for free. So if anyone's got that link, send it my way.
Yeah.
I'm not paying them. I wasn't paying anything for their Patreon. I will pay $3.57 a month though to go. It's not another shooting show that I haven't done yet. I just keep getting reminded whenever I listen to your voice because it's actually worth it. It's not just 10 minutes, Robert.
Yeah. It's
Of
not
listening
just
to
you. It's not listening to Tom talk about his meal prep for the week.
Yeah,
It's,
and his tent, right?
Yeah, he's not in the bed tent anymore. Now he's just doing blackout curtains, which I thought the bed tent, like as a guy who used to do morning radio, the bed tent was a bit aggressive when it came to like I get he was having to work overnights and stuff and needing to sleep, but like really good blackout curtains do a great job. And
Yes.
it's also I even gave him a little shit over Instagram, like, okay, you could buy a bed tent, or you could buy like a sleeping mask and it accomplishes the same thing for 8% of the price.
This is true, but it also doesn't give the child inside of him joy because he doesn't have a fort.
Well, yeah, it's the fort factor for sure.
Who wouldn't want a fort? But this is honestly a great segue. So, before you became a, transportation department of fancy riding and air ride vehicles.
I'm a snowplow driver in the winter and a ditch mower in the summer.
Oh, even better. So you could get hit anyway. You could get hit with people with the tow truck, and then you get hit mowing.
And a pothole filler when they happen. That's fucking scary, dude. Like,
Are you the driver or are you scooping?
everybody is scooping. Like everybody's out of the truck when that's happening.
Oh, okay.
Because like usually we just have like cold mix asphalt. So occasionally, like in the middle of summer, we'll get hot mix, but like our hot mix trailer is always broken, so we just end up getting cold mix asphalt. But especially when we're on the interstate, I-29 just south of Sioux Falls is a crazy place, and there's only 2 lanes. It's not like bigger cities where they've got 3 lanes going out for a while. Before they get to 2 lane, it's just like, okay, you're outside of the actual city, it's 2 lane, and now all the cars are bundled together and it's 80 miles an hour, and that's if they're going the speed limit. So yeah, it gets a little scary.
Yeah. So before you did all these cool things in transportation, you were a date. We've talked about it, a morning radio host. At the most popular morning show in Sioux Falls.
It was the most local morning show. We would go back and forth. Bob and Tom was still fairly popular at the beginning, but then they kind of trailed off. So,
And they're still doing it too, which is weird.
Yeah, and Bob's been gone for like 15 years or something like that. But no, we were quite successful for quite a while. I did the morning show from 2009. I worked at the station since 2004. And I was also the program director, so I was like the manager of the station. But
fancy word for intern.
No. The guy who has to put up with the salespeople, bringing them stupid fucking giveaways, and like, hey, can we give away 20% coupons? Hey, let this be a lesson. Matches. Coupon 20% off of an order is a coupon, or $100 gift certificate for a company that only sells stuff that is $500 is a coupon. It's not a prize, okay? It's a coupon. You're giving away coupons. Now, some coupons, they're quite worth it. Like, I'm kind of talking shit about it, but if there's a $200 Hunters HD Gold on the table, that doesn't buy a whole pair of glasses, but my pair of glasses is $200, and I like them a lot, so I'll still take that. But, when it's like bullets, like, oh, you're getting $25 off your bullet order, I'm going to spend like, $1,000. Like, I don't care if I get $25 off. That's silly. But anyway, yeah, so I was a program director. That meant I had to deal with management bullshit. But the part of the job I actually liked was doing the morning show. And I got out of radio because the business has gone to hell, and the higher ups wanted me to move from the morning show to the afternoon show so that they could put a syndicated morning show on in our place. And I later realized they were going to push this on us. But then when my co-host decided to leave, who I'd been working with for 9 years, then it was like, oh, now's the time to do it. And I'm like, I literally told all my bosses, you are putting a gun to the head of the radio station and you're getting ready to pull the trigger. And I was right, because no one's listening to that station anymore. So, yeah, but I loved it. It was such a fun gig. I sort of accidentally fell into it in college, switched majors. I was going to be a high school history teacher, and I started doing college radio for fun, and then after the first year I did it, I won a bunch of awards at the awards banquet, and the radio professor at my college, Black Hill State University out in Spearfish, he was actually, our professor was a big deal. If you look up Dave Diamond, you will find him on Google. He was one of the original boss jocks on KHJ in Los Angeles, like the first top 40 radio station in the country, like sort of when that sort of station was invented. I think he was the night or overnight guy there. If you watch, I think it's on Amazon still. It was a show that was on VH1 back in the day called Classic Albums. There's one about the Doors' debut album. They actually put a picture of my radio professor, Dave Diamond, because he was the one that suggested to the Doors, hey, if you cut down that organ solo in the middle that goes for 4 minutes and you cut this Light by Fire down to like 3, radio will play it. And they did, and he was right. And he was kind of a big deal, and I learned a lot from the guy. Even though he was very old school, learned so much from him. And little things like fade outs are dumb unless you're still talking. If something is ending, like on your podcast, if you were going to have like an end of the show outro, like having the music just sort of trail off. Now that's an artistic choice if somebody wants to make it, but he always thought it was dumb. He just like, no, it's over, on to the next thing. And that's why our show ends the way it does. You know, it's just like, boom, and it's done. And then your podcast player is automatically playing the next thing. You're not sitting through 45 seconds of fade out of some French pop band.
This is true. Although Jeff might really enjoy a French pop band. I don't know.
We know Tom does for sure.
Do you remember the 3 episodes that were like different outro music?
Yeah, I think I actually missed one of them because I didn't even realize. The first time I picked up on it was the first time they mentioned them. I'm like, they did? And then I went back and listened to them, and I'm like, oh, no, you need to.
I messaged Robert immediately. Change that shit back now. We got a problem.
No, keep stealing that copyright from those nice Frenchmen and just go back to the way it was. Because even though it's like the first time I found their show, I'm like, what the fuck is this music? But the more I listened to it, it fit. And like, especially the song they used at the beginning, like, it's not my cup of tea, but it's a great introductory bed and intro. Like it's good, you know. And the way they start the show off, it is really good too. So, but yeah, I spent a lot of time in radio. Got to interview some famous people. I actually just told my daughter the other night for the first time, because we were. One of my favorite YouTube channels is The Charismatic Voice. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's this opera singer, instructor, professor woman, and she's got a very bubbly personality. And I found her because she started doing these vocal critiques of heavy metal songs. And I'm a big Metallica fan, and when she first did Metallica, that was kind of how I found her. And she was doing a critique of that's the first chord of her intro music of Skid Row, 18 in Life. And like, until I watched that video, I didn't realize what an incredible vocalist Sebastian Bach was. I mean, he wasn't Freddie Mercury, but he was close. Like, he really good. Was on Broadway for years. Like, really good singer. And never really realized it. But then as I was listening to it, I'm like, my daughter's a big choir nerd and loves singing in musicals. And I was like, oh, I want to watch this with her. And I said, actually, this guy was the first rock star I ever interviewed when I was in radio. And she's like, really? So how you used to interview people, but like, I don't really remember them. I'm like, yeah, because like they didn't want to talk to anybody in Sioux Falls after, on some radio tour or through MTV. And she's like, so who's the most famous person you ever interviewed? And I'm like, you're not going to believe me, but I'm going to tell you. And everybody listening is not going to believe me, but it's true. Hillary Clinton. I interviewed Hillary Clinton back in 2008, the only time South Dakota's primary mattered. Because the race between her and Obama was so tight in the primaries that, because I think our primary is like in June. It's way late in the process. It's usually long gone over. Like, everybody's dropped out by the time our primary rolls around. Well, every one of those delegates mattered. And so our morning show interviewed Obama, and I'm on the air one afternoon, and my boss goes, hey, I got a weird call. Do you want to interview Hillary Clinton? And I was pretty apolitical at the time. I'm like, yeah, sure. And I don't remember any of it. I have audio of it somewhere. I do have proof of it, but yeah. No, I got to interview Bob Saget like a couple years before he died, and met him he played at a casino near us. He was one of the most awesome people I ever got to meet. In that job was just an absolutely gem of a dude. Got to interview Louis Anderson. And he was so nice when we got done. He's like, "You're a really good interviewer." Like, no one's ever asked me, like, he mentioned one of the questions I asked him, and he's like, "That was a really good question." And I was like, gosh, shucks,
Shucks.
great, Gene Simmons, I interviewed him when he was peddling his book. The only thing I remember about
He
that
wrote a
interview-
book?
Oh, way back in like 2002.
I didn't know he could
2001?
write.
Well, I'm sure someone else did the writing and he just told stories, but he had claimed to have slept with like 50,000 women or whatever it was. And I said, "So you slept with 50,000 women. How did you keep track of that number?" And he immediately goes, "Photos." Back in the 70s, Polaroid came out with this really handy camera and this was in like 2002 before everybody had a camera on their phone. Like our phones were just phones and that was it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, Polaroid. So you have 50,000 cameras of chicks you banged?" He's like, "Yeah." "Your wife's good with that?" "Yeah." "That's awesome." Yeah, it was a cool ride.
At some point, someone's going to find that box of photos.
Yeah. If it hasn't been tossed already.
Yeah.
I think he's still with Shannon Tweed.
Yeah. So after you got out of, being a morning radio host, which is sad that you're not on the morning radio. I would tune into that digitally if that was still the case. But
We had a fan in Paris, like Paris, France.
Did you?
The guy who listened to us very regularly, although there he was listening in the afternoon. He had been here. He works for, I don't know what the actual name of the company is, but Baby Bell, like the cheese company.
Cheese.
Yeah, and fromage, French. And he was here. He's an engineer, and he was involved with building a cheese plant up by Brookings, north of here. And so he lived here for like 2 years, and he found our morning show and listened to it every morning. He was only in the car for, 5-10 minutes, but he would catch a little bit of our show. And then when he didn't really listen to us that much, but when he moved back to Paris, then he was like, "Oh, I kind of miss South Dakota," and he found us on the internet, and then he started interacting with us. And earlier this summer, he finally came to the States. He had to do something in Brookings at that plant, and so he took a couple extra days off because they get like 6 months vacation, I think, in France or something like that. And he came over to my house with my old morning show partner, Tosh, and we recorded a podcast for my other podcast that I used to do all the time called Andy's Things and Stuff. And we bullshitted for 3 hours, and it was so fun. It was great.
That is pretty great. So Andy's Things and Stuff, was it just to fill the void?
It was just a way for me to breathe into a microphone again after I got done with radio, because I quit at the station in July of 2022, and I think I started that in September. So I was only not doing something like this for a couple of months, and I really enjoyed it. Like, whether the audience is, whatever we were cuming at any given time in the morning, like, at any given moment, there's somewhere between 15 and 20,000 people listening, based on the ratings, which are horribly flawed, but like that's sort of the estimate. Like that's an arena of people listening to you all at one time. It's just they're all doing it privately. Or if it was between 200 and 500 listeners a week, I would get on that show. And towards the end, it was closer to 200. And so it was, it had trailed off a little bit, but I didn't care. I just enjoyed it. Like, I liked doing it. I liked the process of, just talking about stuff. And that show just sort of evolved from, the very first episode was just me laying it out there. It was called What Happened? Why did I suddenly disappear from the radio? And that one, and then the next episode was with my morning show partner who had left a month before me. That one got downloaded a lot. When we were both sort of like laying out the bullshit that happened. But yeah, it was just to keep doing it. Like I had the gear already. So all it was, and I already had a website host from my business, and just I've had a web host since 2005. So it was nothing to just throw up a website with a podcast app in it. I wasn't even using like Podbean or anything like that. It was just literally something simple podcasting on seriously simple podcasting on WordPress. And that was it. And then I just set up the feeds and it got out there. And then when I did that for a little over a year, and Jeff and I had talked about doing a podcast back when I was still doing radio, but I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then we would text back and forth, and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. We could also do this. And then it was like, okay, let's just start doing it. So then we did a couple of rehearsal episodes in December, and then the whole Scott Area 3 thing happened. And so that sort of drastically changed. I would say it did drastically change the direction of the show a little bit, because I'll be honest, I was writing bits that would have been about, it was going to be like a voiced character bit of the board. And this was before the board was live streamed. So it was basically going to be caricatures of all the board members that I was just going to, either me or somebody else, I would get to voice. I will say that I was going to also use like clips from movie characters to be certain other people, but I'll wait until I'm off the board before I produce that. So, because I don't want to cause an extra conversation I don't want to have.
Yeah, don't blame you there. Don't blame you there.
No, there's already enough conversations I don't want to have.
Yeah, well, it's okay. You
Thanks for signing up for the Patreon, patreon.com/notanothershooting show. Thank you. Our newest member, Alex Mansfield, just became a 357 member. Thank you, Alex.
I'm tired of listening to 20 minutes of the last show.
Isn't
the last
that
20.
aggravating?
Yeah, the last 20 minutes. The last episode that was like 20, 30 minutes was really good. And I'm like, all right, I've listened to most of these. It's about time I give
honestly,
give me $4.
like that one ended up long because of the subject matter. Because I was sort of speaking as a board member, so that's why I didn't cut it off, because I don't want to do that. Like if it's USPSA kind of board talk ish, even I don't want to put that behind a paywall. But and that's why that one ended up a little longer. And I think the first time I did it, when we first started the Patreon, it was literally just the intro. And then, hey, if you want to listen to this episode, go to patreon.com/notanothershooting show for $3.57 a month. You can listen to it. And they were really short for a while. And then I'm like, nah, let's like have the show and kind of bait them in. And then we'll do it. And I understand it's aggravating. I'm a capitalist. That's 100% why. That's what it's designed to do. It's called a tease. It was a thing I learned doing radio for many, many years. To give someone a reason to sit through that god-awful 6-minute commercial break my boss is going to put you through, I'm going to give you a really good reason to come back.
Right. And it does. And it's a tease, and it gets people in. You've got to be at a decent amount, so you're actually putting money back into the pot. What are you even doing with this Patreon money anyway?
It's literally still sitting on Patreon. I haven't, like...
What's the goal?
So
we're going to get more patrons through this, but hopefully, peer pressure, guys. If you're a Manny Talks Shooting listener, go over there, give them $3.57 or 357 cents.
Yeah, there you
want
go.
to think about it that way.
Yeah,
think about it like yen. It's super affordable.
Yeah. What are we doing it? Well, I'll pay for Podbean next year. I will switch my Adobe Audition subscription to annual and pay for that all up front instead of monthly, $25. If you're whether you're a shooting podcaster or somebody who wants to do a podcast about anything, if you're looking for an audio editor, like what do you use?
I actually don't edit. Well, I'm weird. I edit a video and then export an MP3.
Oh, okay.
But I use Movavi.
No,
my computer can't run DaVinci Resolve, which I'm very sad.
Adobe Audition is like the most. It's as big or small as you want it to be. It's a little more complex than the version I used for a long time in radio, just because it evolved over the years. But It's still basically the same thing, and it's really user friendly, even though it's capable of so much. It's so awesome. And if Audacity's the thing you use, like, I mean, it does the job, but like, I am so trained for Adobe Audition that I actually remember the original program. The first time I used it, it was called Cool Edit Pro before Adobe bought it. Like, they didn't develop it; they bought this other software and then they re-released it, and it's fantastic. But like, I'll pay for that with it, and then whatever's left over, Jeff and I split. You know, so
More Michelle Weitzel shirts. More Michelle Weitzel.
Yeah, no, she does good shirts. You should get them.
I don't think I've had a couple people locally have them. I haven't gotten one. I just switched, so I deal with one of my sponsors, 2 Alpha Apparel. He's trying to do kind of what Michelle does to a sense, where he's doing custom shirts for like larger orders and whatnot. So he's finally cracked the code of how many he needs to make like a small order. So cool enough is he did the shirts for the AMU.
Oh,
So the Army Marksmanship Unit, he did a couple of those. So I'm in works of getting him to finish making me some shirts. But he does very nice work like Michelle. I think I want to compare. I compared the materials one day to one, and they're pretty similar. Which those materials are different than like a Techwear or a who's the new guy on the block? Oh,
I don't
Ray
even
Zero
know.
Sports. The Ray Zero Sports don't breathe.
That's the thing. There's certain, like the sun hoodies that are so popular. I haven't gotten one of Michelle's yet, but I've owned a couple of those. Like, I bought like a Sims one, like an actual fishing hoodie, at a sporting goods store, and that thing did not breathe. I mean, yeah, it was UV protectant and hot. And then I bought a couple off Amazon to just wear at work if I was mowing or something, and if it's hot out and I don't want to put sunscreen all over myself. And those were actually, it wasn't like old school football jersey material where it was literally holes everywhere, but it had like these little tiny holes, and you could actually feel the breeze blow through the shirt. Like, it was not just breathing, it was ventilated. And it was awesome. It's so good. And then actually Todd Weitzel, when my son and I shot the Cornhusker Steel Challenge match, he had an extra Vortex sun hoodie that I haven't worn yet. I don't know how much it breathes or not, but those are awesome. And Michelle, I remember before the match we did last year, 2023, I asked her if she had those, and she said no, she did not, but she does now. She's got the sun hoodies, and those are now out in the world too. So
Yeah, those shirts from Vortex are called
Sunslayer.
I had to do it.
what?
Sunslayer hoodies.
Oh, so if you're going to use that, a little pro tip: you have to enunciate very well.
You've met me long. We've done 2 shows now together. You know
Yeah.
I don't enunciate.
Like, enunciation is important when using effects. Because if you mumble, then it just sounds like.
Hang on. Anyone worried about audio level? Don't listen to that.
That's why you have compression on your microphone. So then
This is
it keeps it from blowing. I mean, it's still loud, but
not as bad.
You can kind of make it sound like a telephone if you hold it just right.
This
You
is
get it
true.
just right. You get a little off to the side of the mic. It's sort of like a telephone.
Yeah.
See, when Andy did radio, he had to make his own sound effects because he's that old.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Did someone fart? Yep, that just happened. Also, if you want to do a podcast, and I highly recommend anybody who wants to do it, just do it. Just do it. It's fun. But this is not how microphones work.
This is true.
This is how microphones work. I don't care what brand of microphone you buy, and the picture on the box says it's like, oh, it's a tabletop, and I set it over here off to the right next to my bourbon, and then I talk, and people hear me. No, they hear this, and every echo in your room with the hardwood floor and the solid furniture. This is how microphones work, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
Yeah,
this
put your
is how
mouth on
microphones work. Yeah, it is aggravating. You'll see people struggle with them, and yes, they will do the thing that Andy just did: lay back in their chair and not talk into the microphone. Microphones have patterns, people.
Sometimes you can do it for effect, though. Like, there's a time and a place for it, because sometimes you want to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Now, I wouldn't want to scream that loud directly into the microphone. and also sort of the off mic thing gives it sort of a little, especially when there's not video, it gives a little, there's theater of the mind going on there. Like it's creating a picture. Like it sounds like the guy in the yard over here screaming at his neighbor that he doesn't like. And now you've got that in your head. See, theater of the mind. We don't need video, folks.
Yep, we don't need video. It just makes this conversation a little bit easier. This is why Jeff and Andy don't have video when they do their podcasts.
No, because we can't see each other.
Yeah.
And
that was the one biggest thing that Jeff asked, do I need to be on video? I'm like, no. He's like, okay. Thank you for checking out another episode of Manny Talks Shooting. I greatly appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor, please go patronize our partners when you are available. We have always, as the title sponsor, D2 Custom Guns. We've got Outdoor Dynamics, Make Stuff Better, 2 Alpha Apparel, Range Panda, Laugh and Load, Hunter's HD Gold, and Southern Bobby Q. Now, thank you. Let's get on with this episode.
The thing is, we've done it without video for so long. If we do end up doing video, it'll be weird because I said that to him last night when we were recording, and because I did mention like, oh yeah, we'll probably get a couple of good cameras from the Patreon because we have some video content we want to do. We don't necessarily want the podcast to be video, but there's videos we want to do. Basically, we want to do like Mystery Science Theater 3000 videos, making fun of each other's shooting videos. Or
that's not hard. Video. You just talk about Jeff's reloads.
Yeah, like how the gun goes this way and his mag goes this way, and why he can't get them in there.
Yeah.
But no, it's just I forgot what I was talking about. Shit.
Cameras.
I don't like cameras because I don't like dealing with video. It's not the video I dislike; it's the work that it requires.
A lot more workflow.
A lot more.
That's why I edit a video and then I just make the audio sound better.
Yeah, just rip the audio out. Yep, 100%. Yeah.
Speaking of video, that's been spicy lately.
Oh, yes.
I am good at, I might not be great at podcasting. I am good at segues.
That was a good segue, Alex. That was a very good one. Well done.
Yep. So that's been a big topic. That was a big conversation in the last board meeting. Surprisingly enough, I actually watched that one somewhat live. Because I was driving home from a match, and a local indoor match that we have once a month. And I was like, oh, the board meeting's on. I shall listen. And, of course, I get there, and Ben, the floor gets turned over to Ben to motion his change to 11.2 and 11.2 and 11.5 about no to shall or may add video. Yeah. That was a good conversation.
Yeah.
So how does Andy feel?
I feel like changing the word, like his proposal. At first, I thought, okay, maybe there does need to be a framework put around this, but that's going to be so complicated and clunky. It's like shooting a popper twice for calibration. It's going to turn into this goat rodeo thing.
I have been saved by the popper thing, though. So,
well, I'm not saying it doesn't save people, but it's like the simple solution is if it was hitting the calibration zone, it's a miss. If it wasn't, or if it hits the calibration zone and it doesn't go down, we either reshoot it or it's a hit, one or the other.
Right. It would depend on it's an activator or not in all reality. But yes.
Well, and that's part of the problem. I think the simpler solution is don't use large poppers, and this is never a problem. But I like large poppers because they're fun to shoot fast when they're at the minimum distance. And there's a whole bunch of them. It's like ding, 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 ding. It's a lot of fun.
This is true. But I have been screwed by mini poppers. But that was more due to the fact of using a jacketed hollow point that lost all inertia by the time it got to the mini popper at like 20 yards.
Someone didn't make power factor. We actually, in our dark match, we had a calibration call on a mini, and they won because
in the dark.
Just didn't realize it. It was pitched way over, and like, I mean, it's like sort of a fancy club match, so it wasn't like we were going around with a range master calibrating all the steel. Like, we never messed with our steel, but it was a popper. I think I leaned over for practice, and it was still leaned over.
I love doing that for practice. You just hit the popper, and it wiggles, and it doesn't fall down, and you don't have to go pick it up. But no, I made power factor, sir. 177 power factor.
Okay.
But the bolt and for some reason these jacketed hollow points sometimes would, I don't know if it was how they were made or what. And this happened to me twice. I've been popper screwed with major, and it's like you shoot it. By the time it hits the mini, It's bizarre. By the time it hits the mini, it's like it dissipates all energy, and it'll be a calibration hit, and it's just like it stands there.
Like a big splatter? Is it just like
Yeah,
the
yeah, almost.
completely comes apart?
Yeah, where it literally is just like blowing itself to bits.
Oh,
But I mean, that's kind of the limitations when you're trying to shoot the thing at like 1350 to 1400 feet per
Yeah.
second.
more of
So-
it coming apart on its way there.
But since I switched to FMJs, I've
Yeah.
not had problems
What,
smoking
what
poppers.
was that before?
A Full Metal Jacket, hollow point.
Oh, a hollow point full metal jacket.
Yeah.
Not a
Oh yeah.
regular
Oh yeah.
FMJ.
No. Yeah. I was shooting a jacket with hollow point. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Hollow point instead of a full metal. Yeah. Or a FMJ. What the? Oh well, I call them CMJs, complete metal jackets, but that's because that's what the company brands.
Well,
is.
if they wrap around the bottom, then it's like TMJ or CMJ, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that- Whenever I see TMJ, I'm like, I don't know. It's
Total metal jacket.
Yeah, whatever.
It's stupid. But so poppers. I like mini poppers. But yeah,
Wait,
then
we
you
were talking
get
about video.
Yeah, we're talking about video evidence here. The only thing I could see, and you've known this as being a match director for a level 2, is that will like every CRO having to review video will kill match flow.
Yes, it will.
And I don't want to be there till 9:00 at night every major match.
No. If it becomes something other than may use video to contest a call, if there is some sort of framework put in, I would like to see it so that the shooter has an opportunity to look at the video before they contest the call. Sort of like MLB. Like they give them that little pause so they look on the monitor, wait for TV to do the replay, and then they see it and they're like, no, we're not going to do it. Now, that would still slow down the match. If it's like, okay, you get until the second make ready after you shoot, until right before, the second make ready, you have to decide if you're going to use video. And, then at least I feel like that would filter out some, like, no, I didn't have a foot fault there. I didn't have a foot fault. They go over and they look, oh, I totally had a foot fault. Okay, never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're not going to have this, lost argument. And a lot of DQ videos I've seen, especially the uprange draws, a lot of times people think, I didn't DQ, and the video is literally evidence of a DQ. Almost
Right.
every time I see one. I've never seen one when somebody posted on Instagram where they're like, I didn't DQ, look at this bullshit. I'm like, okay, I'm assuming, now I can't see your hand on the gun, but your elbow comes up like this, and your entire body is pointed 45 degrees back left. That's an uprange draw. That's literally an uprange draw. That's evidence of a DQ. So I think it should be allowed, but also as part of it, it's just part of contesting a call, like contesting any call in USPSA. Like a contested call can take a shitload of time no matter what. I was the CRO for a stage at Cornhusker this year, and I talked about this on our show. I made a boneheaded call, a completely boneheaded call, because I sort of had it in my mind because this shooter had like pissed and moaned about a call before. And I am like, okay, well, I'm going to stand my ground on this. And I stood my ground to the point where I made a mistake. I was wrong. Like, it was a bullet that partially went through hardcover, but it splattered so badly when it hit the target. It was just sort of like, what am I looking at here? It was a little bit confusing, actually. And the range master was also confused by it. A very good range master, Scott Arnberg. And so at first he agreed with my call, and the shooter was like, no, look, it's partial diameter here. And we're like, oh yeah, it is. That's totally Alpha Charlie on this swinger or whatever, like, so delays can happen anyway, even without video. So, but if you are going to make people always, and like, I'm not saying I have the right answer. I'm not sure this is the right answer. This is just what I'm thinking. Is if we give them the opportunity, a brief opportunity to look at the video without stopping the match, it's going to take a lot of these delays away. But at the same time, I'm also kind of on board with, hey, if you're contesting the call, you're doing it while you are the shooter before you hit approve on the pad. So I also kind of see like, okay, if you're going to do it, like you got to go to that. So we're just going to sit and wait while I pull up my hat cam video through my phone. Oh yeah, I did foot fault. Never mind. Like,
Right. Well, and then, as we work at every major match, it's RM to stage 2 for a calibration, RM to stage 5 for for blank name, blank thing, DQ, obviously. Oh, RM to stage 17 for video review.
Well, don't say for DQ.
I know, but you
Do
know what I
people
mean.
do that?
No, it's
Oh,
RM
okay.
to stage 7, but when
RM
you
to
know what
stage 7 means somebody DQ'd.
it means, oh shit. Which means, stats guy, you may start driving over as well.
Yeah. We're going to need a tablet.
Yep.
But no, I mean, it needs to be a part of contesting a call because ROs are human and they make mistakes.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this as we've been talking. How would we feel about it if it's like you can keep contesting call like in football, right? They can contest a call, and if they get it wrong, they don't get any more. Or if they keep getting them, if they get it right, do they keep
two
getting
yellow
them?
cards. You get 2 yellow cards
Yeah.
per match. So if you're going to use one, you got to save one for the DQ
Yep.
for sure. I don't know. Like to me, like a DQ call should automatically, like no one's gonna like look at their video first. They're just gonna look at it, unless you're, unless you realize, like at this point, if I DQ'd and it's a legit DQ, I'm not gonna argue it. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, Now if it's a 181 call, that's gonna spin me up a little bit.
Right. But as we've talked before, the video's got to be conclusive evidence
without a
that you
doubt.
didn't DQ.
Right. It's got to be like the Brantley Merriam video where it
Yes.
is definitely obvious. Now, part of it was that he had multiple views, but that helped it make sense for you and me.
Mm-hmm.
To the ROs and the range master on the ground there, they're going to be able to look at the stage. He was here at this point and the target is there and he pulled off the target when this portion of the wall was still in view. Like this is not a DQ. Like they're going to be able to stand there and like compare to the video what was going on.
Well, and it seemed like at that match, the ROs couldn't even articulate, not to bash these ROs, but it seems like they couldn't even articulate what had happened, what they had saw was one of the problems too.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of it is just like the nerves of it. And it's like, no, I made a decision. I got to stick with it. The best range masters I've been around when they've come over, when there's a DQ, like, Scott Arnberg comes to mind, of course. I had to DQ a guy at Cornhusker last year, and when he gets to the stage, the first thing he does is he comes to me, and we go away from everybody. And he's like, okay, so what did you see? And I said, it was an uprange draw. His body was completely turned around this way. Holster is pointed uprange, and he pulled the pistol out, and he didn't really start moving until he had pulled it out. Where there was a lot of people in that match that probably did it too, but it happened so fast, and there was a wall with a banner in the way, we couldn't see it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people probably got away with it. But I said, and then after I described the DQ, he said, "Are you 100% sure?" And like, I think that question has to be asked of every RO who ever makes a DQ call. Are you 100% sure? I'm like 95%. Okay, then we won't call it. Then he stays in the match. If you're only 95% sure, that means you have doubt, and they should stay in the match because you're not 100% sure.
Right. I agree with that. My first ever DQ at a ever DQing anybody was at a major match. It wasn't the first time I was a CRO. Maybe it was. No, probably wasn't. Maybe it was my second time being a CRO, but like one of the first regional matches I really worked in Kentucky, where you got like, it was a full match and there was a bunch of heavy hitters. I DQ'd somebody who, this ground, the back of the bay is higher than where kind of the shooting area was. So you had to retreat backwards on the stage. So you were also going down grade slightly. Mm-hmm. And this one guy tripped and he goes and he breaks the 180 with his arm vertically.
Oh, like over the, yeah.
And he's catching himself and he's like, I'm like, stop. So I get him to unload. I'm like, unload, show clear. And unclear, hammer down, holster. And I ask, "Are you okay?" Because when it looked like like he did something with his ankle too. After I watched his hand break, I watched his feet. I'm like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he's like, "Well, what'd I do? What happened?" "Well, you broke the 180 vertically," which people don't think that the 180 goes that way too.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, I got video." And his squad was pissed at me. So, and at the time, it was like the squad of all the, I would call them the pain in the asses, because they're all great shooters like by themselves, and they're not bad when they're all split amongst themselves, but when they're all together, it becomes a problem.
Oh.
So you're like, and I wasn't even supposed to be the RO on that rotation for my stage, but I told the new RO that I was watching the squad list and the matrix, and I'm like, who's ever supposed to be on the timer on this stage is not. I am. Because it was easier for scoring calls. Like, no, I am the CRO. You can call the range master at this point instead of wasting more time. So,
Yeah.
but I had the DQ. Russ Fortney was the range master on that match. He did the exact same thing. Pulled me aside. What'd you see? He then asked my side ROs who couldn't see it or weren't paying attention to what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, but they didn't say they saw it either. But he says he's 100. Like, it's like they didn't say anything that contradicted me. They just said we weren't. See it. We didn't see it. We weren't paying attention.
Just saying I didn't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Right. And now if they said no, I saw something different, and then we could go with that. But
yeah,
that's the one time I've DQ'd only. Well, I've DQ'd. Really, I've observed multiple DQs. I've never DQ'd. They've DQ'd themselves.
Oh,
but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There was that one, and then somebody popped one off during a reload on a standard stage, and it went over the berm, and it's like, well, sucks for you, buddy. That was your second stage of a 14-stage major on staff day.
The DQ I had at Cornhusker last year, 2023, that's the only DQ I've had running a major, at least when I was running the timer and made the call. There was a guy that DQ'd at multi-gun, but before I could yell stop, the CRO of our stage yelled stop, so I didn't have to. But you said their squad was pissed at you. Well, the squad that this guy was on, he was pissed, but his squad completely diffused the situation because they're like, no, dude, you DQ'd. And like, I didn't even have to explain it to him because they did. So
yeah,
they saw it too.
Well, I had a couple shooters from the squad who were kind of like, they were just on the squad. They were like, yeah, I saw it too. I'm like, okay. I mean, I wasn't wrong. The guy's not happy with me.
They weren't his buddies, though.
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah. And then it was funny because I paid attention to, like, Carry Optics Nationals was the next weekend in 2023. Guy DQ'd that match too. He's like, I've never DQ'd before. I'm like, I mean, it all happens. It's not if, it's when.
At our dark match, I thought maybe that was going to be my first because
I would knock on my table, but my microphone would spike. No juju there. I don't want to do that.
After watching the video, I'm like 95% sure the bullet did not go over the berm, but I definitely torched one off before the gun was all the way up because I kind of false started on the draw. Like I kind of jumped it, but then I got back and then RO says or hits the timer beep, and so I was in the start position when he hit it. I tend to take a bigger pause if someone sort of falsies. I just sort of like let them get reset, and then I'll start over. I'm not a big fan of like screwing with somebody's match that way, and like it's not wrong. Like I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just how I like to do it. But
right, and at that point, I agree.
If Steven had yelled stop, I would have been like, okay. Like I wouldn't have questioned it at all because I was like, I don't know where it went.
Yeah, it's usually stop. All right, get back into position.
Oh, I'm talking about the.
I know the stop for the AD.
The AD who AD'd. Into the berm, thankfully. I'm pretty sure.
It's okay. You still don't. You have less DQs than DNROI.
How many does he have?
I don't know.
Well,
Rick Rotzel. I need the answer.
One wasn't a DQ. It was a bump to open with the single stack.
Yeah, but he like it. It seems obscurely how like it's real for the guy who is supposed to be in charge of like the officiating of people. He has
DQ'd several times. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I want to swear at least it's on two hands, if not more.
Really?
Yeah.
Like all time?
Yeah.
Or okay. I mean, well, he's been in the sport a long damn time, so that's.
I'll have to dig up some information. I'll have to do some sleuthing.
Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah. So speaking of that, I mean, you've also ran the last 3 years? You've ran the Great Plains section, man? 4?
4. Yep.
Washing your hands of it now, right?
I am washing my hands of it. Yep. Josh Vandertop, a guy that shoots at my club, is gonna take it over, and he'll do a great job. I'm still gonna help him out with it because it's his first time, and like most people would be, he's a little like about it, and like whatever he needs from me, I'll definitely help him. I'm gonna give him my list of like, here's all the shit that's got to be done, and
Subway
if you
box
don't have-
lunches.
if you don't, Subway box lunches, yep, absolutely. All food trucks should never be at the lunch of a match. It should be after the match or before the match, like a breakfast, like there's a gal here locally that does waffles, and they're amazing. Like if there was a waffle truck in the morning at a match, I'm so hitting that waffle truck.
Like
Instead
a
of
breakfast
shitty
waffle.
breakfast.
Ooh, breakfast waffle crunch wrap.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
But
Fat kid engaged.
yeah. But yeah, I no, Great Plains was it sort of fell in our lap in 2021. Our range wasn't even quite ready for it. So the only time we could do it was in July that year. That match, and it was like July 17th, somewhere in that neighborhood. But that was sort of the all of a sudden. Oh, in January we have our first major. The second year that we're a club. Okay, and so all of a sudden I'm thrust into the role of match director, and I mean I made some mistakes, but as far as like Jeff swears up and down, that's his favorite match of ours that he shot up here. So, it's I'm not doing it anymore because I have Area 3 to worry about this year, so or in 2025. So every now and then somebody's like, well, if there even is an Area 3, no, there's going to be an Area 3 this year.
Are we going back to we going to Nebraska?
We will have more to come.
Okay, fair enough.
More
You
to
figure
come.
those contracts out.
We've there is not a date or location yet for Area 3.
It's going to be in Todd Wotzel's backyard. It's going to be a barbecue and a pool party.
I have a friend with enough land, but there's no berms. But it's out in the middle of nowhere, way West River, South Dakota.
Yeah.
It could be a thing, but no, there's and there's no electricity or internet, so that would be a pain in the butt.
It would be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, big. And I mean, it's literally in the middle of nowhere. But
So, go ahead.
I was just going to keep blabbing. You
That's
have
good.
something to say?
See,
I don't.
It's okay. Filling it with good, no dead air. You can't have a bad air and dead air. But so, how's that new club or that new range coming in your neck of the woods?
I was just out in the Black Hills 2 weeks ago. I shot my last club match of the year at the range in Spearfish Canyon. By the way, it's one of the few ranges where I don't know how this would be handled because the back berm of the two pistol bays they have is like 300 feet tall. And you're right up against it. Like the Black Hills, if you've never been there, especially in the northern Black Hills, it's a very weird sort of like small mountain range. And a lot of the cliffs are very sheer, very sharp, very straight up and down. And then there's like grass and trees on the top, and then it drops off like a cliff again. And their range is built in the middle of this canyon. And so it's almost, I will say, almost impossible to send one over the berm at that club. But anyway, to your question, no, the South Dakota Shooting Sports Complex is coming right along. Actually, you know what? Say words for 10 seconds. I'll be right back because I got a thing I can show on the camera. Hang on.
All right. As Andy's getting that, the reason I ask is it sounded pretty cool. And you could go to Mount Rushmore with your family when you go to nationals if they had it there. I mean, it's kind of fancy and it's in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
What's in the middle of bumfuck nowhere?
South Dakota.
Okay. Look, we don't want you to move here. We really don't.
Just come to Mount Rushmore and be happy.
But come spend your money at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Go to Mount Rushmore, take your selfies, go to Deadwood, gamble a shitload, leave a whole bunch of tax dollars in my state, and then get the fuck out.
So speaking of Mount Rushmore, like I remember going there as a teenager. We were there at like 2 a.m, like just going there at night with all the lights on.
Oh, it was lit up. Okay.
Yeah, I was just like, there's like 50 people there at 2 a.m.
Could you still walk up to it?
Yeah, you could get to like the viewing zone. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't know. Okay, so
this was like 2010s, but
I was mistaken. There isn't like a great photo of it because there is some actual photos and some. Here's like the map. Okay, so like, here's the layout of the whole facility.
Mm-hmm.
So this part over here is where like major matches would happen. So there's I think 7 or 18 total bays. This is a 300-yard 360 bay. That the law enforcement training academy in our capital wanted. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it if I ever have a match there, but it's interesting. But when you add in all of the bays, we have a total of 28 or 9 total. And I've gotten assurances that, you know, if there's ever a nationals here, they will shut down the range for it. So, because it is a state-owned facility, so like they're kind of some of the how it's going to be run, they're figuring out as they go. I will say this: when I was out in Spearfish 2 weeks ago, and I shot the club match there, the range manager that they hired is a USPSA guy. He's a certified RO, and he was shooting PCC in that match. So like that's a good thing. Like it's a guy who gets our sport. He's not some, you know, NRA high power shooter who's like, hey, 2 seconds between shots.
Ugh.
You know, like I'm so glad they didn't hire a dude like that. That would have been awful. But so he's a guy who gets our sport, and the state is on some level has been trying to be more accommodating than they even should. But the contract for it is October of next year. It's not ready for prime time until October. So that's why the hope of having Area 3 out there is there's some things would have to change in that contract before that could really happen. So I have no idea. You know,
Yeah, no.
obviously I'm from, okay, this isn't going to be a surprise to anybody from Nebraska or anyone at Hornady. I'm from South Dakota. I want Area 3 to be in my state if I can. Like, obviously that, like, I'd just be lying to everybody if I said, well, I'm not sure. We'll see. Of course I want it to be, because it's also my hope that this is my only term as the Area 3 director. So this would be my only Area 3 match. I don't know if I'll run again or not. I would prefer not to. I just wanted to be part of the solution and then hand it off to somebody else. But
So quick question then. So if nobody decides to rerun, right? You know, as the incumbent area director, you are automatically running unless you say you're not running. If nobody signed up to, it's a thing. You got to tell them that you're not actually running.
Oh, really? So I don't have to get signatures again?
Right.
Oh, that actually makes it a little easier.
Yeah, you don't have to get signatures. But if nobody decided to run, would you stay on?
Yeah. And like I said, if two dipshits run, I'll run. You know, and I don't mean to say that, like, I say that with, keep in mind, I may change my mind. I may decide I want to continue to be the Area 3 director. Right now, I'm leaning towards not. And the only thing that makes me want to run again is to be able to be the match director for a match in my state. That's the number one thing that would get me to come back, by miles. So, there is a little bit of a quirk, and I don't know, I'm sure somebody might take this and twist it, but people haven't voted for an area director a lot in my area. Now, they voted for one a lot in the last few years, but in the history of Area 3, Sherwin Greenfield never had a single vote cast for him. He was
nominated, and then nobody else ran against him?
No, he was a replacement. He was a essentially, but he was like an interim area director when someone moved out of the area, and then he was still the area director, and no one ran against him, and no one ever thought to run against him. So he literally managed to become president of USPSA without ever having a vote cast for him. Now, I ended up not having a vote cast for me either, and I would prefer to have had that happen, but, you know, Luke Faust was in, and then he chose to bow out and just let me have it. So
really, you could think about it. Luke voted for you.
He's the only guy who voted for me, I guess you could say.
You could say. Since he backed out, he's like,
Yeah.
well, Andy has my vote.
Yeah. So there's only one vote cast, and it was his, I guess. Yeah. But no, as far as back to the original question, the range in Rapid, it's gonna be so awesome. It won't have like more bays than any other range. I think if you add all of Sups up, that has more bays. But the bays they're gonna have out there are just there are these gigantic canvases to use a paintbrush and make cool stages on. Every single one of those bays is 35 yards wide. Every one of them. The shortest bays are 50 yards deep. The shortest ones are 50 yards deep. Others are 100 yards deep or 150 yards. Or no, they're on the north end, they're either 50 or 100. None of them are like 25 or 30. They're all 50 or 100. So on some levels, like talking to Bruce, the guy who runs the club out there, like it's so far to move stuff around. You know, all of my stages for a club match all my bays are within 50 yards of each other. You know, everything's pretty close. You go 50 yards, that's 2 bays. So
yeah, that's going to be a nightmare for
it's
starting.
big. Yeah, it's really, really big, but it's going to be capable of hosting just an absolutely amazing matches. I think that 360 bay would be very cool as like a demo bay or something like that. And for like an area or a section match, you know, it's got the north end has more bays than that match would even need. So you could automatically have like a demo bay and a warm up bay or whatever, stuff like that. And it's in a really cool place that, you know, a-holes in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan think, or wait, are you a Youper?
No, I'm a troll.
Oh, okay. You know, they think it's just flyover country, but the reality is there is a lot to do out in that area. It'll rival St. George as like a good place to go for a match. And you've got Deadwood, you've got Mount Rushmore. The Black Hills are full of all kinds of touristy things. You've got just the Black Hills. Like if you like hiking, if it's the right time of year, you know, fly fishing is an option. There's if you got a motorcycle, it's a fantastic place to ride a motorcycle because unlike I lived in Colorado for 9 months and I owned a motorcycle there, but like there's no short rides in Colorado. Everything's like an all day thing if you're going to go on a mountain ride. You can go on a really cool mountain ride and it takes you like an hour and a half, 2 hours, you know, if you wanted to. So, no, it's really, really neat area. The Badlands of South Dakota is also it's like an alien ground. It's, if you Google that, it's just absolutely incredible landscape out there. And then the range, I was talking to Bruce, I didn't get a chance to go to it when we were out there. But there was a lot of rain in June, so some of the berms kind of got washed down, so they had to push some of them back up, and then they got the hydro seed in, so it'll grow grass in the spring and kind of lock all those bays in. But gravel's already everywhere, so it's pretty exciting to have that. And then just for all shooting sports, there's going to be like sporting clays and 1,200 yard rifle range and 1,000 yard range and an 800 yard range. And then one really big 300 yard range for like general rifle plinking and trap. They've got bunker trap they're going to have eventually.
Bunker trap.
Yeah. It's, which I don't even know what that is.
It's so I had a buddy, we shoots USPSA with me from time to time, and we were talking about, because he came from trap and skeet and stuff, and he was trying to explain bunker trap the other day at lunch.
It's like Olympic trap shooting.
Yeah, it's funky. It's funky.
What is it? Just what's the difference between that and like normal trap shooting?
There's some different rules. Like you can do certain things, or you can't shoot. You can't shoot. You can shoot twice, I think, with bunker trap, or you can double shoot. There's some funky rules, and I can't remember now because I wasn't really paying that much attention. But I remember the buzzword bunker trap.
Yep. So that'll be a thing there too, and if shooting at paper or steel gets boring, all you have to do is drive like 45 minutes in any direction, and then you can shoot prairie dogs. And let me tell you, if you've never shot prairie dogs, it's a lot of fun because they're everywhere and they're vermin and they do nothing but dig up holes and eat all the grass for cattle in all this ranch land. And if you go find some BLM or national forest land or national grassland, go bang, bang, bang away. And it's a lot of fun to take my 6mm Creedmoor out there and shoot laser beams at 400 yards and blow up prairie dogs. It's awesome.
That is
And no, you don't eat them. You're swatting mosquitoes. That's what shooting prairie dogs is. You're swatting flies.
Did you see the video that Aaron Eddins put out about shooting prairie dogs?
No.
He literally was shooting prairie dogs, and you see the whole video, things exploding and just like blowing them up. Yeah.
There's a video of me on YouTube shooting prairie dogs in the Fort Pierre grassland that I did when I was working in radio. This is back in like 2015. It's a little cringy for me to watch now because I didn't really know what I was doing. But yeah, it's out there. There's one that just goes flying. Like it kind of explodes and goes flying. And, and they carry plague. So like you're literally killing off bubonic plague or pneumonic plague, whatever it is that they carry. But yeah.
You're helping the environment.
Yes.
But yeah. Well, Andy, I think we're kind of at the wrapping point, and we talked about things.
Already?
So I'm not even going to try to.
We've been going for an hour and a half. Holy cow.
Yeah. I mean, we just been having time's flying when you're having fun.
Yeah, it does.
So, Andy, I guess I'll cut this one and like say it is. It is. If you want people to talk to you or whatnot, where can they find you? Where can they absorb your content? Where can they hang out with you? I guess if they want to, and all those good things.
Content. Not Another Shooting Show. We actually have a website, but there's not really anything on it except links. But you can find Not Another Shooting Show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you subscribe to the Patreon, you can listen to it on Spotify. I've gotten that question a couple of times. Like, it's set up to do it. You just have to go into your Patreon account, click on the listen on Spotify link, and then it'll open your Spotify and it'll get it all set up there. So my Instagram is andy.e.605. That's the one area code in South Dakota. That's why the 605. FYI. We don't have a million people. We have one area code. Let's see. The area. Okay, honestly, you can send me email to area3@uspsa.org, but it's a catch-all. I get spam emails that come that are directed to that. I don't know, whatever Sherwin signed up for back in the day, but or andy.erickson@uspsa.org. By all means, if you're a USPSA member, especially an Area 3 member, by all means, send me all the email you like there. Some send me more than you would possibly imagine. Yeah, that's about it, I suppose. And if you're in South Dakota, come shoot a match in Sioux Falls, Canton, or Spearfish, soon to be Rapid City. I've gotten pushback from people like talking about how this range would be able to host nationals, and it absolutely can. And it will, like, the way I would see it going down is the first time there's a nationals there is people will be like, oh, okay. And it'll be, you know, if there's 3 nationals, it'll be the kind of like one of the, I don't know. Like we're not going to put the CO only nats there. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But people will go there and they'll be like, okay, so the match was good and all, but like we had so much fun when we were not at the match because there's so much shit to do. Like it's literally a family destination. So that's the thing I'm super duper excited about. So come visit my state, spend money, and then go home to wherever you live.
Exactly. It's not that you can't. What is it? You can't stay here. I don't care where you go, but you can't stay here, kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But man, Andy, brother, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sitting through another one of these, since this is really round 2 for you and I. But yeah,
if you fuck up, I got the recording.
I don't think I'll lose this one because I'm not gonna have a blonde moment or a brain fart. But
okay,
it's good. It's good that you have my backup.
I'll have a backup for you.
It's okay. But Andy, brother, thank you for hanging out with me again. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again. Probably you, me, and Jeff at some point and clang out an episode or something.
Right on.
But yes, to the listeners, get out and do the things. I will see you on the next one.